We're done for. Everyone get out.
Hello tankers and tankettes, and welcome to Armoured Warfare. Now these are some very preliminary thoughts I'm going to be laying out in this video, and it's not going to be a particularly long video either because I wanted to at least show you an interesting game, and frankly most of the games I've had, I think I've won 3 battles out of like 20 that I've played over the last 2 days. Most of them have just been a complete one-sided landslide. But that matters a little bit less in Armoured Warfare, because although you get rewarded a bit less for your wins, you also get punished less harshly for your losses. So it kind of evens out. And it means that even with results like that, it's still not been that bad in terms of getting reputation, as the XP is called, and money. So what we're looking at right now is one of the wheeled vehicles in the game, and it's also effectively the scout class. Armoured fighting vehicles are basically the scouts. Light tanks aren't scouts at all in this game. And the speciality of these is, well, first off, this interface will look very familiar to anyone that's played World of Tanks. There is a lot of World of Tanks in this game. There are a lot of those mechanics, but they have been considerably tweaked. And one of the tweaked mechanics is active spotting, and that's what down there at the bottom, the hotbar, ammo types, consumables, and E. And if you press down E, if you have the silhouette of an enemy tank and you highlight them with E, they will take increased damage, and I think you get increased XP for it. So that's one of the special abilities. And bear in mind, this game is made by a company that has made RPGs. So they are keen to, like, some of the biggest differences in this game are to do with how crew works. So it's interesting. I mean, it's the same but different. That's my kind of headline for this game. It's the same but different. So War Thunder is, I mean, War Thunder was self-consciously trying to do something very different to World of Tanks. This is self-consciously trying to do, well, it's trying to take what they know is a successful formula, and it's a very Hollywood thing to do, really. They take a successful formula and then they tweak it. And that's what they have done, and I think they've done it rather successfully. But they're not just trying to clone World of Tanks as well. They're not that trade, though. I mean, they have thought about what kind of shape they want the game to have. And even though there is a lot here that's familiar from World of Tanks, things like the hit bars and just the interface, and I'm sure some of the underlying mechanics and things like how crews work, I mean, a lot of it will be immediately familiar, but there are other things that are definitely different. One of the big differences is that there's no national tech trees. You get weapons dealers, basically, and there are 2 at the moment. There might be more coming later on, but there are a mix of different national vehicles within those. So you've got British and American and Russian vehicles all kind of side by side. So that is, yeah, that might tie in later. They might add some kind of meta game kind of a thing. It might end up being a bit like Team Fortress 2, where they initially started off with it just being a game where you shoot other people, and then this whole kind of almost meta story accumulated around it, although that was more fan-driven for Team Fortress 2. So I'm just lighting up things and also shooting at things. Now, bottom left-hand corner, where the tank kind of status bar is, and you can see all the modules there, but that white bar that you see that keeps flicking down when I fire, that's actually the that's your camo status, basically. So I've got pretty much the best camo I could have at the moment, and the moment I start firing, that's going to drop. That doesn't automatically mean you're spotted, but it means you're much more likely to be spotted. And you can actually, Sixth Sense is almost a default, well, it is a default thing in this. I don't think it's even called Sixth Sense, but you basically get an icon that pops up when you are spotted. I mean, a lot of these basics Jingles has covered, but just in case you haven't seen anybody else's previous video, I thought I would get some of it out there anyway. This particular game also was, I picked this one out, and I'm kind of glad I had it, because I only had about 45 minutes to play out of the 3-hour play sessions that they are putting up at the moment. Most of the games were just kind of crushing wins or crushing losses, mostly crushing losses, but This one was actually kind of close, as it turned out, and I'm still getting a feel for it, and I haven't got any air quotes proper tanks yet. I have got several tier 2 vehicles, including that thing that I'm looking at right now, which is the Scorpion, which is a nice little machine. But I've only got light tanks and AFVs, and I've got the tier 2s of both arms deals at the moment. And on the whole, I'm quite enjoying it, but it's like, this is very, very early. This is maybe literally after 4 hours of playtime, because I didn't have a chance to play on any of the previous playtests. Another thing I will note is that this is actually on the low graphics settings, and I was actually recording with the low graphics settings. I can play with medium, in fact I can play with high, although the frame rate does dip a bit, but for recording I had to turn it down to low. But I don't know if you remember, well, you may not have seen any of my Fractured Space videos, but when that first came along and I first had the footage for that, the frame rate was pretty dire in places. Certain effects would tank the frame rate down to single digits. So optimization is one of those things that, you know, that will improve. Frame rates will get better, and they are actually aiming to have it be playable on, if not as wide a range of computers as World of Tanks, nearly as wide a range as World of Tanks. Although World of Tanks does not play that drop though that consistently sometimes. Like, your mileage may vary quite considerably with World of Tanks. So on the whole, it's fun, and the major difference I would say between this and World of Tanks is that the gameplay, even the starting tiers of gameplay, the tier 1 and 2 vehicles, it's a lot more like the high tier medium gameplay of World of Tanks. It's all about that mobility and moving around. There's no real equivalent to heavy tank gameplay or well, I was going to say tank destroyer, but the more kind of campy tank destroyer gameplay. The big kind of hulking brutes of tank destroyers that you get at the high tiers of World of Tanks. I don't think they have any in there yet, but they may come along later. So we've come down to this, by the way, 3 versus 1. But that would be my main thing. Like, if you like the high tiers of World of Tanks, if you like that fast medium style of gameplay, you're probably going to like this game. If, on the other hand, you are much more of a fan, as I am, for instance, of the heavy tanks, of kind of slower styles of gameplay, it doesn't really seem to cater to that. I think it's deliberately set out to be a very fast-paced game, and that is going to be very appealing to some people, and it's going to be less appealing to others. But there are other things. I mean, there are a lot of things that they have tweaked compared to World of Tanks. So although a lot of the concepts are the same, a lot of the mechanics are the same. For instance, it's +10, -10 RNG as opposed to +25, -25. So that's a big change right there, and I've already said that you get punished less harshly for your losses, so that's a big change. The way that crews work, I mean, the skills are a little bit different. Just on the whole, it's, like I said, it's the same but different, and I'm finding it, the losing over and over part's not been quite so fun, but that's not to do with the game, that's to do with other people. And on the whole, so far, I'm enjoying it. But it would be nice if there were some play styles of vehicles that were a bit slower paced. Because, as you all know from World of Tanks, I'm not really a fan of that. I don't have many high tier mediums, and that's not really my forte. So that might limit how much I enjoy this. But I can see this, like, I can see this having legs. It might not be in fact, it almost certainly won't be the World of Tanks killer, because a lot of people play World of Tanks for the actual historical period, but I'm sure there are a lot of people that will play this as well, and if you can play World of Tanks, then you can pretty much play this. Like, there's enough familiar that you can just immediately jump in, and although the maps are different, although the vehicles are different, you can have a fairly good idea of what's going on. So there we go, my first Armoured Warfare video. I'm sure there will be more to follow. You can leave any comments or thoughts below, you can hit the like button, you can subscribe to my channel, and as always, stay tuned for more.